Prinzing. This is episode 624. So, for the past 4 weeks, we've been featuring past guests who originally appeared on the Slow Flowers podcast during years 1, 2, 3, and 4 of our 10-year-old podcast. These episodes are part of the 10-year anniversary celebration of our award winning Slow Flowers podcast, which launched in 2013. During the first 8 years, the podcast was audio only, reaching hundreds of thousands of listeners around the globe, bringing the first ever podcast devoted to the floral profession to the airwaves. We incorporated video episodes beginning in 2021, adding a new layer of content for our viewers and listeners. So today we're taking a pause on our 10-year retrospective to bring you a fun new video episode, a shop tour, interview, and floral design demonstration that I filmed on August 4th at STEMS Brooklyn with Suzanna Cameron. It had been many years since I first visited STEMS and spent time with Suzanna, the founder of STEMS, and so much has changed since then. STEMS began life 10 years ago as well, in the tiny foyer of a Brooklyn bar called Sycamore. Today, the flower shop is much larger. It's still in Brooklyn, in the Bushwick neighborhood, and it's a spacious, light-filled destination for local flowers and houseplants, where you can shop for gifts, vessels, art, and flowers by the stem, and where you can take a group workshop from Suzanna or one of her team members. Let's jump right in and get started. You'll join us as Suzanna narrates a tour of STEMS, followed by our interview and her floral design demonstration. I know you'll love this experience as much as I did. Let's get started, and I'll share our sponsor thank yous at the end.
Hi, welcome to STEMS.
Oh my gosh, what a beautiful shop.
Here we are. Welcome to Bushwick too.
Awesome. Well, we'll come inside and get a tour.
Okay.
So, how long have you been here?
We've been in this space for 5 years, and I've been in business for 10.
Right.
So this is where we moved 5 years ago from a 200 square foot shop to a 1,400 square foot shop.
Oh my gosh.
It's a lot bigger. We don't have to work in a basement anymore. That's a great perk. Everything's on the same floor. The sort of vision for this space was that we would have a working flower shop and a studio that works together so people can see what we're doing. I think a lot of times in spaces I've been in flower shops, we'll have a store and then like, oh, the studio's in the back, don't go back there. Or we're hiding away so much of what we're doing and creating, and I really wanted this space to feel open and for people to be able to see what's going on and to not have to hide, you know?
You have such wonderful
Big,
window
beautiful
space.
light. This is what sold me on this space. I was here and there was all these big brown papers up in the windows, but when I came here and I saw the space, I thought, this is the space, this is it. And when we pulled the brown paper, I didn't actually see how much light was here until 2 months later.
You signed the lease.
Yes, until I signed the lease, I moved in. So we were able to carry beautiful house plants now, which I really wasn't able to do in my previous spaces. We have a bunch of dried flowers that we dry in-house, and then we also bring in from local farms. We work with a really great one in Oregon. And as you can see, we kind of have little areas around the space where we're drying stuff, and it's fun. People come in and they get to see like, oh, that's so cool. Are those ready? Can I buy those? Oh, that's how you dry flowers. And so we're able to really show people how they come to life or come to death, actually.
So this is your cash wrap here?
This is our cash wrap. This is Amanda back here working. So this is where people will come up and they'll check out. If they need help making a bouquet, they can come to our fresh flower bar, where we sell everything by the stem. So
let's walk over.
yeah, come on over.
Were you able to do this in the smaller space?
We have always had a flower bar. That's always been something STEMS has offered, a fresh flower bar.
Single stem.
Single stem. So if someone comes in, we have a price list. Everything is priced out, and so people can come and build their own bouquet. If they come in and they say like, hey, I'm going to a birthday party, can you make me a $50 hand tie? We'll make it for them right here. And then a lot of our orders come in online for delivery. So we're also prepping online orders back here and helping walk in. So we usually have 2 people that are working in the store at all times, and then a manager that's on site as well.
Wow. And
Yeah.
so the customers are really used to telling you their palette or their price point.
Yes.
And sometimes they direct and sometimes
Yes.
they want you to
Yes, my thing is like when I welcome them in, I go like, what's the occasion? What are you celebrating? Oh, it's an anniversary. Okay, great. Is there any flower that speaks to you? And they'll say, oh, I really like purple and these. And I'll say, great. And then I'll be like, what kind of budget do you want to stick with? And then I give them a range, and then they'll tell me what they're here for.
And do they want a vase or do they want hand
Yep, we have little vases over here. I would say the majority of our walk-in customers are looking for hand-tied bouquets.
Okay.
We also are in a highly creative neighborhood here in Bushwick, so a lot of people come in to buy flowers for photo shoots. Maybe they're a baker and they're looking for flowers for their cakes, or pressing flowers at home. So people come in to pick out little individual flowers for that too.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah,
I love
it's
it.
awesome.
And I love it kind of size options too, because it's a cash and carry neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
Small is probably very
Yes,
good.
exactly. We do a lot of like smaller things for in store. We carry a lot of local made products like these, like beautiful mosaic terracottas are made by a local artist. We also have framed florals, which is another New York City artist, and she does those on the wall. And then some of these are prints of hers over here, and then some of them are just prints of our own flowers, so people can kind of see our colorful design everywhere in the space.
This is cute. So this is your little retail.
Yes, and you know, we all like during the daytime, like the flowers go away at nighttime, like this whole bar is managed every day.
Oh, okay.
So it is actively being used and restocked and reset at the end of the night, and then it goes back into the cooler. And so we have some things in here that might be a little more fragile, or sometimes we'll put pickup orders here.
Yeah.
But all of our orders have been picked up for today, so it's cleared.
Your branding is so nice.
Oh, thank you.
Can we see the studio?
Come on, let's see the studio. So we have our little sign here, which we don't want people necessarily coming back here too much just for safety reasons, but they're welcome to like peek in, take a look, and we also do our workshops here.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
You can see it from the street.
Exactly. So today we're prepping, Shannon over here, she's our amazing retail manager. She's prepping what we call a la carte. We have little events and weddings we do through our a la carte platform, which is just a mix and match. People can get bud vases, little mason jars, bouquets, bar pieces, whatever they need. And so she's doing that order, and then we have another order going out over here that Jazz is making. It's so pretty. Yeah.
Just a bunch of vases in one box.
Yeah, so they're just packed together like this. We repurpose a lot of boxes, like flower boxes that come in. They're already here, they're already made. It helps us reuse materials that we have. We have a huge shipment of dried lavender that just came in from Earth Matter Farm, which is really exciting.
Oh, how fun.
We buy them out mostly. Yeah, we have little bunches. They're so special.
People in New York are so deprived of sensory
Yes.
aroma. They need this.
Exactly. And we actually get to go out to the farm every year and visit, which is really fun. So, yeah.
So the tables, like, there's a whole bunch of mix and match. Is this like workshop? Do you
Yes.
reset the
So
workshop?
most of the tables that Liv put together are all on wheels because we need to move things around for different purposes. Like last weekend, I was teaching a private bachelorette flower arranging workshop. We've got another one tomorrow, so we'll rearrange the tables. We had them set up today because we had a full service wedding that went out this morning, and they were finishing up in the back. And we had the a la carte, and then I was designing on this table. So we really are just using every piece of this space as best we can.
And then the cooler is massive.
I mean, the cooler was the best investment I've made as far as, build out. I was really hesitant because, as everyone knows, coolers are very, very expensive. And there was a lot of florists I know that have a lot of success with cool bots, which I wish I could have done. However, we don't have a window to put, there's nowhere to put the exhaust from it. So we had to go with a compressor, which I've learned a lot about. But yes, this is my pride and joy of the space. Let's go take a peek. So we put these in last week, actually, these curtains, and we have our backstock here. This is going to be a workshop. We've got a private on Saturday, and then Sunday Shannon's also teaching our signature workshop along with Jazz, and they're going to...
You are busy.
Yeah, we're doing it.
7 days a week.
7 days a week.
This was just an additional protection for the flowers?
I put this in because we had our compressor blew out last year, and I was advised to, clear everything off the top of the cooler and to put the curtains in, and shamefully didn't do the curtains until a year later, but they're in.
They're now.
We did move everything off the top because a compressor has to get air, and I had stored stuff up there because we're florists, we need to store stuff all the time, and it was actually blocking air from getting into the compressor. So
Oh my gosh.
it crapped out on a holiday. It was very stressful, but
Well, let's sit down and
Yeah.
have a little bit
Let's
more
do
of
it.
a conversation.
Let's do it.
This has been
okay,
so
great.
Okay, that was the fun tour. And, right after we finished the tour, we sat down, Suzanna and I interviewed her, and then she did a really charming hand-tied bouquet demo. So let's put that video up, and just give me a second, and we'll add that video. Here we go. Susanna Cameron, thank you so much for letting me come visit you here at Stems Brooklyn.
I'm so happy to have you.
Such
an honor.
Forever.
Since the bar days.
Okay, the bar days.
Yes.
So that was, you said you started the Stems 10 years ago.
10 years ago.
Okay, so tell everybody your origin story, and we'll fast forward to this beautiful space.
Okay, great. Do I look here or do I look at you?
You can do either. We can look at each other.
Okay.
And if you want to make a point, you can look at the camera.
Make a point?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Okay, so I started Stems in a bar called Sycamore. It's in South Brooklyn. It's about an hour from here. And I worked for that flower shop. It was there pre-existing to me.
Okay, so did it have a different name?
It had a different name, and there was a little pop-up shop in the front, 99 square feet of just a little flower bar, grab-and-go bouquets for the neighborhood. Kind of, you know, weird situation how it came to be that they were looking to rent the space out. And I was kind of in the right place at the right time and kind of got wind of it. And my friend really encouraged me, like, you should ask them about you opening a flower shop there. And I was like, I don't have any business experience. I don't know how to do any of that.
Really?
I was 22. I was a baby. I was supposed to go back to college and get a degree. I was like enrolled at Brooklyn College. Yeah, my life was going in different directions, wasn't sure where.
But something was, your friend was encouraging you, but there was something in your heart that was pulling you too.
Oh, I mean, I got that nervous feeling that I get when I know I'm going to do something, but I haven't made the decision, but I already know in my body, like, that's what I'm doing.
Yeah.
So it was very, very nerve-wracking to say the least, but I got up and going in about a month's time. It was really bare bones.
Wow.
It was just a small space. I had some cylinder vases and some shears, and I like went to the flower market and bought my $300 worth of flowers and opened my door, and that was sort of how it got started.
So basically your startup assets were just your tiny checking account, and you just had to pay for flowers and then sell more than you spent every day.
Exactly. I had about $1,000 in my pocket, so I knew that if I got $300 worth of flowers, I'd probably make back $1,000 to $1,200, and then I just repeated that over and over again, week by week. I mean, seriously, it was like, that's how much. And when I'd be at the market and the guys would be like, oh, it's $357, and I'd be like, oh, I gotta take something out.
You were disciplined.
I was very disciplined.
Wow.
I will say that of all the things I've gotten wrong, the one thing I've gotten right, a couple things, but one thing has been always marking things up appropriately and running your numbers.
Wow.
And really keeping that
and
focused.
math, and how did that happen? Did you just take, like, you just read a lot or took a accounting class?
Oh, not that smart, no. I think for me, I'm very practical and logical in that way. And even as a little kid, I was always the kid that was like saving my money. And like one time I saved my money to buy an American Girl doll, but then I didn't buy it because I was like, well, that's $110 I'm not gonna have. Right. So I've always been very like money-minded and always been a good saver. And I think that I, baked cookies at my dad's office as a kid, and I would sell them.
So you were entrepreneurial.
Yeah, I was from the beginning.
I love that.
I never put that together. I didn't understand that's what it was until I got into floristry.
Yeah. All those skills.
All those skills
followed you.
All those skills, totally.
That is really great. And when you were there at Sycamore, that's when I first learned about you because Amy Stewart, who wrote Flower Confidential, did an event there. Right?
It was sort of a cocktail hour, and I think there was industry people that were kind of all communing together and like having a nice evening and talking about the book. And there was another book that was being, what's the book that it was like a green front with like gold leaf on it?
And Amy's.
Yeah, Amy's.
Wicked Plants.
Yes, and I think we were maybe selling that in the shop.
It might have been Wicked Plants.
Yeah, it was one of those books.
Because she called me right after that, and she's, you've got to meet this gal. You've got to go to see what they're doing at Stems. Because I think even then, you were trying to source locally, or you had a sustainability sort of thread weaving through the business, right?
Yeah. I don't think I was, in the beginning, had that intention going into it. I was much more like, I wanted to do designer's choice. I had worked with some farms and got with a farmer right when I started, and I was buying from Brooklyn Grange. There was a farmer there, Lily, who now has Vantage Point Farm. And so I bought some local stuff in the beginning, but I was still going to the flower market. And I was very much of the mindset of like, if we use designer's choice as a way to design, I'll use all my materials. I won't have any waste.
Right.
I never used flower foam from the very beginning. I I didn't really mess with anything that was dried or dyed, but that wasn't as much a thing when I started. So it's just more practical application in the very beginning. I wasn't thinking like, oh, I'm going to be an eco-conscious florist and like make all these choices. I think that came later.
Right. But you hadn't put a name to it yet, but it was just your ethos of not wasting.
Yes.
And trying to, pay your bills and not have flowers that you're throwing away.
I couldn't afford that because that was my income. That's how I was making money, and it was really important. And my mom's very frugal and good at like not wasting food, and I think I got that from her. I was just being scrappy.
There are no leftovers here. They're all hanging in the ceiling.
They're hanging on the ceiling.
Well, and I think about that also, buying from farmers. Maybe that was something that was pretty early on that you were doing that.
Yeah.
There weren't a lot of connections between New York and Brooklyn florists and farmers out in Connecticut and the Hudson Valley, right?
It was very difficult to get connected, and what was even harder at that point was getting the flowers, because a lot of the farmers are farming on their properties, and they didn't have a way to get to New York. We worked with a couple of farms that did make the trip down, and then eventually they got to the point where they were like, we can't do that, this is too much.
Right.
But the industry has changed so much in the last 5 years. I think the amount of flower farmers that we get approached by or that we are learning about, it seems like every year there's a dozen more.
What is the most typical format that works for you? People who are large enough to be able to deliver, or are you going out and
good question.
picking things up?
Mostly people deliver to us.
Okay.
We do go pick up for very rare exceptions. Maybe it's for a full service wedding where we need extra of something, or we do pick up at the New Jersey Co-op. We started doing that this year to get additional local flowers specifically for weddings.
Right. It's still a bit of a commitment, like a 2 hour commitment.
Yeah, it's a big commitment. Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
But how great.
Yeah, so there's a lot of farmers that are coming to us, and that is a bit of a determining factor if we can work with someone.
Yeah.
It's like, what day are they delivering? What products do they have? We already work with some farmers, so we're always being very conscientious of like sharing, and I think it's not as much of a competition thing nowadays, and I think everyone's aware that we're trying to support as many farms as possible, and we have all different needs each week, so hopefully I think we're able to support a lot of farms.
How did the shift take place? What did you get kicked out of the bar, or did you outgrow the bar? Did they close? How did you end up here?
We got kicked out of the bar overnight.
Oh. Are you serious? I must have seen something on Instagram about that.
Yeah, it was a really...
I'm sorry.
Yeah, it was hard. I had a 6-month-old baby, and I'm a single mom, and so I was doing that, having a child that was a baby, and then I found out overnight that we were not allowed to come back to the bar because of a Department of Building issue that came up out of kind of seemingly nowhere.
This is pre-COVID, right?
Yeah, this was back in 2017.
Okay.
So I actually had another shop in the works that was going to be another collab yoga studio shop, and so my intention was to have 2 spaces.
Okay.
I thought, great, I can make all this work. I'll have these 2 sort of hybrid shops, because I was really too scared to like come to my own place and be paying $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 in rent every month.
You were going to piggyback on a yoga studio that you knew of that wanted to have you there.
Yeah, that we were going to open together. But in the interim, there was like 3 months there where I moved the shop into my apartment, and I lived in a 3rd floor walk-up. For anybody who's lived in New York or understands what a walk-up is.
I mean, it's hard enough with a baby, but with buckets of water and flowers, I don't know how you did it.
I mean, I had an amazing team. I mean, that's what it comes down to. I mean, the team here is really what has supported me and my journey, and our collective vision of like working with local flowers and being design oriented, and I couldn't do this without them.
Oh, wow.
100%.
So I got you off your story. So you had this sort of interlude. What? Because you were waiting for the yoga studio to open up?
I was waiting for the yoga studio to open up. I thought, well, I'll just move the shop into my apartment. We'll do a couple of weddings on the books. I was like, I'll just keep the website open. Maybe orders will come in.
Yeah.
And it was scary there for a second because I had some online orders, but at that time it was like 3 a day, 2 a day. It was not a lot. I didn't have a cooler to store things in. And then I had a couple of very loyal customers that came to my apartment door, like, can I pick up my bouquet?
Oh, wow.
But yeah, it was a really hard thing.
Yeah.
But anybody who's been in business long enough knows that life still happens.
Yeah.
It certainly doesn't stop when you have business.
And you're a smart woman, and you figured it out.
Yeah.
Even though it wasn't your original path.
It was not my original path at all. But I think it was time for me to leave the bar. Looking back on it, I'd had a baby. I wasn't like in my early 20s, like partying and like enjoying the bar quite as much as I was at that point.
At home.
Yeah, I met these moms that also had a baby that was almost the same age, and they were opening a yoga studio. So I got to be around a lot of other mothers, and in a very like women-focused space. And I think that's actually really what I needed in that time. And I needed that support in that community. And it got me kind of more in touch with my like feminine energy, if you will.
I love it.
And it was a nurturing, tender place to be, and I think that was a really important part in my journey and my own identity as a woman and as a mother, and now like transitioning into this other role as a mom in my life. So I think it was okay. It was hard, but it was okay.
So Suzanna, at some point you found this space, and that kind of changed to the new game plan.
Yep, so we started working in the yoga studio. Again, we were doing all of our production in a basement.
Oh, that's what you were talking about.
Yes, and it was...
I thought you meant the basement was at the bar, and I couldn't remember.
We did work in that basement too.
Oh
so
my
I went from one basement where we were doing any of our production, because the shop was so tiny.
Yeah, it was like a little foyer.
It was a foyer, yes. And then with the yoga studio, we had a little bit more space. 200 square feet, which again, once we put our display cooler in there, ate up a lot of the space.
Yeah, this is 1,400, so I can just imagine it was just a little corner.
Just the front little area. So we were working in the basement, and we went through like one summer and one winter there, and we had to keep the hatch on the street of New York open all the time because there was no internal door. So we had to go down there, and we were working, and it would be really hot in the summer, and it was freezing. And I remember on Valentine's Day, we were all wearing our coats and our gloves, and we were working, and I was like, I can't have people working like this. It's like 15 degrees outside, and it's maybe 30 down here, and it just wasn't okay. And we quickly grew in that neighborhood. We are in a neighborhood, quite frankly, that was more affluent than where I had started, and I think that STEM's really gained momentum in that moment, and our online orders started picking up. I made a big investment in getting an online platform custom designed for us, and that was a big business shift. And I thought, you know what, we need a bigger space. I think it's just time. So.
And that was another Brooklyn neighborhood, though, that you were in.
Yeah, so we kind of have been in 3 different neighborhoods.
Okay.
All moving to North Brooklyn, and we landed here. And part of the reason I looked in Bushwick is that a couple of my staff lived here at the time, and there was no boutique flower shop here.
Wow.
At that time.
You had sort of done the market research.
I looked everywhere. It was like, where can I not step on someone's toes? I didn't want to.
You're friends with all these other
Yes,
florists.
I don't want to take up space where I don't need to take up space. And so when I came to Bushwick, I found this space, and I needed production space because we were really doing a lot of weddings, and I was looking for a space that didn't have a basement. Did not want a basement. So
amazing. These windows, the amount of to be on a corner, to have the linear feet of windows that you have is mind blowing. It's so beautiful.
It's really nice when people are walking up and down the street. Bushwick is a super industrial neighborhood, as you can see. And I think it's nice to just have a little oasis here of green and flowers, and sometimes people just come in and look.
What had been here before?
Back a long time ago, I came to a thrift shop that was here.
Really? Oh, so you knew the space.
10 years ago. I
crazy.
didn't put it together until I'd signed the lease, and I was like, oh my gosh, this used to be that thrift shop. But the building, I think, was purchased and then divided into spaces, and this just happens to be the corner spot.
I love it.
It's been great.
Oh my gosh, it's beautiful. The fact that you located where some of your staff were and the neighborhood that you've done research, that's just probably made it even just not easier for you, but easier for everybody else. Because your staff has been with, some of your team members have been with you for a long time.
Shannon's been with me for how many years? 5, 6? 5
years.
Yeah. Julia's been 5. Yep. Shannon came in when we were on Vanderbilt with the yoga studio, and then Julia, who's not here right now, came in when we first came to this space.
Okay.
So I've got 2, and then Zara's still kicking around, some here and there, and she's been with me for 6, 7, something like that.
So how do you describe STEM's Brooklyn now? Is it basically you're a full-service boutique flower shop? Or?
I wish I had great language for that. I call us like an eco-conscious florist.
I love it.
And we are full service. We do workshops here. We do full-service wedding design. We do retail florals and some home decor stuff. But mostly, our focus is always on seasonal local flowers. No matter what we're doing, that's the focus. It always comes back to that, and making sure we compost and recycle, and we don't carry any dyed or bleached anything. So,
and you're telling your customers this as you're educating them?
Yeah,
and some of it's on your website.
Some of it's on our website. And then, if someone sends us like an inquiry for an arrangement and I can see that everything in it is like dyed and bleached, I'll
like a Pinterest.
Yes, like the Pinterest pampas grass that's pink and glittery, and I'll refer them to a florist that does that. And I'll also sometimes take the opportunity to say, here's what we can make using natural, and we understand, like, if you want that, go here. And I'm like a big referral queen. I'm like, I refer for all things.
That's wonderful.
So we have so many great florists in the city, and everyone does something a little different and has their own unique approach. And if I see a customer that I think is better served by someone else, like, I want them to be happy, I want people here that are like stoked about stems and what we're doing. So everybody wins in that scenario.
Stems is the name you came up with, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I love it. It's great. Yeah. It kind of also encompasses plants and floral design, so it sort of defines a little bit broader niche.
Exactly.
Thinking back on this past 10 years, is this your 10-year anniversary?
We just had it in February.
Oh my gosh, so thinking back on this wonderful decade of your career, have you seen changes? Have you seen customers' awareness change? Obviously you're prompting it a lot in conversation, but what do you think is better now than 10 years ago in terms of the industry? And or maybe what are the challenges you still see?
Yeah. I think what I've seen change from a customer perspective first is that more people are conscientious about where their flowers are coming from and do choose to shop here because they know that's a focus. I've definitely seen that.
That's a plus.
Yes, that's a huge plus. And it's taken years of cultivating that community and that language and putting that out for people to understand that's what we're doing.
Yeah.
That's part of it. And I think great design.
Yes.
You gotta be sharp on that design.
You've got a very beautiful aesthetic it's seems like it's garden inspired, but it has a little bit of a edge to it.
Yeah.
A little upscale edge.
Upscale, edgy garden. That's
a
great way.
Even in the palette,
Yeah.
And I'm sure you can do pastels really well.
Yeah, we do pastels sometimes if people ask for it. And I think everybody on my team can design up to our level of expectation. And like, I don't have anybody on the team that I'm like, womp womp, like they can't handle it or whatever. Everyone is trained and brought up to the same level so that if an order comes in, I trust any of my team to design it. I don't need to handhold them. They can do it themselves. Like everyone can create and has a little bit of their own design aesthetic for sure. And then they also know sort of what the standards are and they can work with it. And they'll be creative, and we are essentially making one of a kind every single time.
Right.
We have similar elements, similar colors maybe, but they're not using recipes.
They're made to order
It's
for
scary.
that customer.
For retail.
Yeah.
Retail floor stores, like, how do you do that? That's crazy.
Well, just on that point, I'm sure you've taught people also your pricing philosophy and how to cost and know what you're putting in this space.
And they also get trained. Like you're going to spend 3 to 5 days working in the studio with me and Shannon, training fundamentals of like design. Here's how you do a hand-tie spiral. Here's how we build our arrangements. Like they're getting all the information.
That's amazing.
And then they get the pricing. So like they're doing both.
And you're spot checking probably.
Yeah. Of course, we're always like quality checking and making sure we all, keep our noses up. I think from things I've seen change in the industry is that I think more and more florists are leaning into locally sourced flowers, and I think partly it's because there's more availability for that. There are wholesalers in the flower market that are even carrying local flowers now.
That's what I've noticed too.
Which is awesome.
Like they realize that's what florists are asking for.
Yeah.
And often because their customers are asking for that.
Yes, and it's really scary for retail florists especially to transition or to even sprinkle it in. And I'm not a purist. You'll see Free Spirit Roses and Crispidia and Ruscus almost anytime you walk into the shop.
Okay.
Like we're always going to have those things. Because that's what we keep as our like fundamental that doesn't change throughout the year, so that all the rest of it can change, but we have continuity.
But you have some sort of basic go-to varieties.
And it keeps some kind of aesthetic going throughout the whole year so that customers are receiving it and going, okay, I know that's still stems. They don't know that, but that's what we're doing.
Yeah, I see.
I think there's more accessibility for local flowers. I hope that people are doing it also for the environment. I think there's a lot of awareness right now. I mean, I think it's been that way for a while, but I hope that that's a focus too, and I really think it is. I don't wonder, and I have florists reach out to me sometimes that are like, where are you ordering from? How do I do this? And they just don't know. Like there's no education or platform on like how do you run a flower shop using seasonal flowers.
Right.
You know, so much of our industry is built on recurring orders, standing orders, and recipe designs. Like, doing what we're doing is kind of crazy.
And you're like breaking the model for both
yeah,
of
like
those.
let's just go do our own thing. And we're in New York too. Like, that is a hindrance in some ways. It's very challenging to run a business here.
I can't imagine that.
It's insane. Just learning how to compost was a challenge because, like, the operations of it.
You had to kind of make
a dumb
make
thing,
your own
but
rules.
like we had to make our own rules. You know, having a car here is challenging, or a vehicle for delivery, and just delivering. Like, there's a lot of logistics. Everything's harder because there's just more people.
Yeah.
And buildings are weird to get into for deliveries. You're not delivering to someone's front porch in the country. Like, but there's more people, so like that's pros and cons.
Yeah, and you don't have a basement anymore, but you do have steps.
We do have steps. We have 3 steps to get into here.
Oh, that's not bad then, I guess.
Not so bad. We don't have a basement to store all of our boxes in. But luckily I'm not a perfectionist in the way where I'm like, no one can see. I'm like, no, this is just what a studio looks like. This is what we look like. This is what doing flowers looks like, and I think that's so important.
I mean, think about what you've accomplished. It's amazing. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
You know,
it's kind of nuts.
little Suzanna with her $300.
Oh my gosh.
You know, pouch of money. Look what you've built.
Yeah.
And
all those like.
Happy for you.
Thank you. All those like things I told myself, and I think for any florist, were I would tell myself things like, oh, I'll never find somebody who's going to like work in the shop the way that I work in the shop, or I'll never find someone that can design weddings the way that I do it. And the truth is, like, you don't find someone that can do it the way you do. Like, you'll probably find someone that's better at it than you, and to be open to that. And I think that the people in this business have made it what it is. Like, I have a vision, and I think my talent is like seeing potential in people, and I think
so you're hiring right.
Hiring correctly is a big part of that, and like people's passion for flowers has to be at the forefront of that ultimately, and like their curiosity about great design and like what they want to do in their own careers.
Yeah.
And I hope that I'm always a place where people can learn fundamentals, can learn to take tools and then move on with their floral journey. You know, I don't, you know, if they can stay here, that's great. There's career opportunities in some ways, but then for other people, they might want to do something totally different from what we're doing here, because what we're doing is very specific. You know, we're not doing fashion week, we're not doing flower walls, we're not doing installations like certain florists, and like that's super fun. And there's space for everyone in this field. Like,
this is a lane that you know very well.
I'm in my lane. I'm staying
there.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah.
So great.
Yeah.
Well, if we have time, I'd love it if you would to do a little hand tie demo.
I'm gonna make our like $100 hand tie. That's really gonna be probably 20. But this is what, like, if someone ordered a hand tie on our website, this would be sort of the style and the size and the stem length of how we would send it out. So when we do our hand tie designs, we typically go through and process everything first. We're gonna compost all of that. So I'll just lay my flowers out here.
Want me to take these for you? Or will you use them?
I'm not going to use them. I'm going to put them in that compost bin right behind you. You know, and I'm just going to go through, make sure everybody's looking pretty.
So your hand tied, you said this would maybe be a little bit higher than $100.
Yeah, I mean, if I counted it up, it's probably 125.
Because your markup, you're doing a...
We do 4-time markup.
Okay.
Yeah, and for us, local flowers are not cheaper. I want to make sure everybody knows that here, especially in New York. I don't know what flower prices are like locally in other places, but for us, I would say, like, with the freight that we have to pay, maybe the baseline is a little cheaper on the availability sheets, but then with freight added in, because we do get things delivered, you know. But then we're not going there and getting it. So,
but I guess the way I've sort of dialogued about that with people is there's very little waste with local flowers, so that you're getting maybe a little more value in that the spend per bucket or bunch or whatever is, everything's usable. I don't know if that's...
What do you think, Shannon? Shannon buys a lot of our local flowers these days. What's your experience?
I would say that I'm requesting way less credits when I'm working with local flowers, just because of the freshness and the quality of
So that's
care.
kind of a different way of looking at it.
Yeah.
Now, just tell me quickly. This is the rose that you
This is our Free Spirit Rose.
Okay.
This is this and the Crispidia we have on standing order. Every week we get 200 Free Spirits, and we get 200 Crispidia every week, and we use them all. If we don't use them, We dry the Crispidia and put them on the dry bar, and the same with the roses. We do have a single variety rose bouquet on our website. We do have that. It's only this rose. So when people call and they're like, do you have red roses, white rose? I'm like, we have a free spirit. It's beautiful sunset colors.
So why? You just love the palette, you love the size, it has a kind of a gardeny look to it?
I tried out a bunch of different roses getting started, and this flower, I feel like they hold up really well. They open beautifully. They have multiple colors in them, so they connect for a lot of different color palettes. And I feel like the fragrance of these is still there.
Oh.
So many of the standard roses have lost their fragrance completely, but I feel like this one still has fragrance. And like if you really dig into the center and you pull it out, there's like still the yellow in there. But yeah, this is just the rose that I landed at for those reasons, and I do think it lasts really well.
Well, it pairs well with all this local product.
Yeah, it pairs really nicely with the colors that I tend to like, warm colors with a pop of cool. Okay. That's how it goes for us.
I like it.
So yeah, when I build, I typically will put in a base green and my focal flowers first, and I don't think too much when I'm putting things in terms of like varieties, and kind of at the end is when I will move things around. And everybody jokes with me, I do this. I like feed my hand through, which is kind of funny.
I love the idea though that you're kind of doing it almost by muscle memory, because if you overthink it, it feels. I mean, that's something that Amy does talk about. It feels overwrought.
Yeah, and you know and like Amy says in all of her content, it's like don't leave it in your hand too long. It hurts the flowers. You're gonna have a lot of heat on them, and like they don't love that.
I really like the high-low, Susanna.
Yeah, we do like a V, we call it. So it's like our kind of signature design. And what I want to see mostly is I want to see the base flowers, like the colored there, clearly. I want to be able to see all the flowers and designs. I do kind of sacrifice free spirits down low. That's my base flower, and I'll put foliage down. And then all the special things should be up, looking around, doing their thing. Yeah. And those are the ones that usually cost more, and those are the ones the customers should see. I want them to like appreciate and see all the little special details in our bouquets. And most of our designs, all of our hand ties are 360, as much as possible. I say that because we used to do frontal facing designs, but
you used to do what?
The frontal facing designs, and then after I took Amy's workshop, I pretty much stopped doing that.
So the 360 is also kind of reads fuller and more. Maybe more expensive too.
I think it does in some ways, and I think it looks nicer from, I think about like where is this bouquet going long term. It's going to go to a vase someone has in their house. The hand ties are not sold with a vase from us. We have an option, but they're going to put it in a vase that's probably not the right height. It's probably not the right size. Like it's going to be, too wide or something, and the bouquet is going to fall apart. So what we do is I'm going to rubber band off before I finish.
Okay.
And then my little Crispedias here.
I love it. So do you think there'll be a point when you have a refresh and you're like, okay, I'm done with the Crispidia and the Free Spirit Rose.
Everybody would probably love that.
I'm going to do my 2024 signature flower.
Yes, we're getting ready to launch our new a la carte website or page where we're doing just like an expansion on our a la cartes. And, I'm open to all things. I'm open and curious. And maybe next year that will be on the docket.
All right, we'll keep an eye out for it. That is so pretty.
And then at the end, I'll come back and I'll kind of pull things up if they got too far down low, and that gives you a chance to kind of zhuzh and like make sure it looks nice in the picture.
Oh, it looks great against that white wall.
I also go through and like usually my shortest stem, I'll cut it within another inch. Like I want to kind of meet everybody in the middle.
Okay.
And I know that I'm going to put Eco Fresh on this when we send it out the door. So I want all the stems to fit in the Eco Fresh and keep as much stem length as I can.
In case that client has a tall vase.
In case the client has a tall vase, and I think that there's expectations from customers and they want some stem length,
Yeah.
Everybody's coming at florals from their own perspective and their own lens. And then we just do a farmer's tie. We keep all of our rubber bands from our processing, believe it or not. And I'm going to just tie off. And that's what's gonna go into the cooler, and then we wrap it before it goes out.
Oh,
so it's gonna be just like that.
Oh, it's so full and colorful.
Yeah, it's fun.
I like the warmth with a pop of cool. So The cool comes from the soft pink, maybe.
Yeah, I didn't really grab any cools. I tend to go, when I make my own stuff, I really kind of go warm.
I love it. What's the wrap? You said Eco Fresh wrap.
We do Eco Fresh. Do you want me to show you, or I can show you one that's like maybe getting wrapped up? But we do Eco Fresh.
Yeah.
I do a bit of cellophane around it to keep the Eco Fresh hydrated, and then I do brown tissue, brown paper, and twine.
Yeah, I'd love to see one.
Cool.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
I can do it here if you wanna.
Sure.
Okay, here's our setup. So when you send flowers, they need to make it there safely. They need to be hydrated, they need to be happy, they need to be protected, and all of this is to make sure that happens. And our drivers leave at 10:30 in the morning and don't get done driving until 4:30 or 5, and they're in a car that stops, turns on, turns off, and like there's all of these things you have to think about. The bouquet has to make it to their door and look like it was just made for them.
But there's like 20 different,
We use a lot of misting. We hydrate things, we mist things. Like this is part of it too. Before we wrap it up, we try to do a mist over all the flowers. They're gonna go right into the Eco Fresh wrap here. Oh, Shannon, will you bring me another rubber band?
Yeah. I have
our little diaper. I love Eco Fresh. I love that they're compostable. When the customers get thank you. When they get the bouquet, it says like, what's the little thing in the, and we tell them to compost it. So hopefully they do.
Love it.
So then this goes on here.
But the cellophane is like part of the protection.
It's mainly for the Eco Fresh.
Oh,
we didn't used to use it because we didn't used to sell hand-tied bouquets on our website years ago. But when we started doing that, because honestly, Eco Fresh was a big part of that.
Yeah.
The cellophane had to be part of it. Eco Fresh used to come with this bag that was like compostable, and they didn't have them, so we were like, we got to come up with our own thing. Thus, the cellophane was born. Which it's not my favorite. It's not. It's biodegradable, but it's not recyclable.
Right.
So there's that. We have our little peaks here, and I am measuring it where I want the flower peaks to match the tallest in the bouquet. And we do a wrap this way and a wrap this way, and we leave the Eco Fresh showing. We leave it showing.
Yeah, it kind of educates the customer again.
It educates them. It lets them know they're in something. Maybe they get home and they're like, oh no, this bouquet that was left by my door has been out of water all day. Then they'll see it.
And then you have the stems.
We have our little sticker. So here she all wrapped up.
Oh, pretty.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. That
Yeah.
is so beautiful. This has been so much fun,
Oh my
Susanna.
gosh, so much fun.
Thank
So
you.
exciting to like reconnect and see you again after all these years and all the changes.
I love what you're doing.
I love what you're doing.
All right.
We need more of this in the world.
Absolutely. All right. Thanks. Oh, that was great fun. Thank you so much to Susanna and her team. You guys took such good care of me that day. And you can watch the replay video for episode 624 in our, we'll have it in our show notes next week at slowflowerspodcast.com. And we'll have additional photos of some of STEM's beautiful event design work. And I'll add links and more details about Suzanna Calhoun and this, the inspiration that she's doing as a Slow Flowers member. I want to take a moment to thank our supporters who bring this show to you. This show is brought to you by slowflowers.com, the free online directory to more than 850 florists, shops, and studios who design with local, seasonal, and sustainable flowers, and to the farms that grow those blooms. It's the conscious choice for buying and sending flowers. And thank you to our lead sponsor, Farm Grow Flowers. Farm Grow Flowers delivers iconic burlap wrap bouquets and lush, abundant arrangements to customers across the U.S., supporting U.S. flower farms by purchasing more than $10 million of U.S.-grown, fresh and seasonal flowers and foliage annually. Discover more at farmgrowflowers.com. And thank you to Store It Cold, creators of the revolutionary CoolBot, a popular solution for flower farmers, studio florists, and farmer florists. You can save thousands when you build your own walk-in cooler with the CoolBot and an air conditioner. If you don't have time to build your own, they also have turnkey units available. Learn more at storeitcold.com. Thank you to Red Twig Farms. Based in Johnstown, Ohio, Red Twig Farms is a family-owned farm specializing in peonies, daffodils, tulips, and branches, a popular peony bouquet by mail program, and their Spread the Hope campaign, where customers purchase 10 tulip stems for essential workers and others in their community. Learn more at redtwigfarms.com. And thank you to the Seattle Wholesale Growers Market, a farmer-owned cooperative committed to providing the very best the Pacific Northwest has to offer in cut flowers, foliage, and plants. The Growers Market's mission is to foster a vibrant marketplace that sustains local flower farms and provides top quality products and services to the local floral industry. Visit them at seattlewholesalegrowersmarket.com. I love all this floral goodness, and I'm so happy you joined me today. The Slow Flowers Show is a member-supported endeavor, and I value our loyal members and supporters. If you're new to our weekly show or our long-running podcast, check out all of our resources at slowflowerssociety.com. I'm Deborah Prinzing, host and producer of The Slow Flowers Show and The Slow Flowers Podcast. Next week, you're invited to join me in putting more slow flowers on the table, one stem, one vase at a time. The content and opinions expressed here are either mine alone or those of my guests alone, independent of any podcast sponsor or other person, company, or organization. Thanks so much for joining us today, and I'll see you next week.